Hi, Don.
Hi, Steve.
Glad
Nice
to meet
meeting
you.
you. Come on in,
You
have a
too.
seat.
Thank you.
What can I do you for?
Don, I'm here because people in the organization have told me that you're really good at changing light bulb sockets.
Okay.
And I'm working with a group of people and we're putting together training to help others change the light bulbs like you do.
Okay.
So I'm here to get some time with you, and the idea would be to come up with a list that I can create that can help others change light bulbs like you.
Okay.
And then we'll use that in the training we're producing.
Okay.
Cool.
Sure. I can help you with that.
Then what I'd like to do is to start off by getting a big picture of how this works, and then we're going to spend some time with you showing me how you actually do the voodoo that you do.
It's a simple process. There's really 2 or 3 steps. You got to pull the old socket out, disconnect the wires. I guess 4 steps. Reconnect the wires and put the socket back in. And that's really it.
Cool. I'd like to start a little bit before that. What happens on the job that tells you you need to change a socket? How do you know?
Well, I guess probably the most common thing that happens is the light doesn't work. And when you change the bulb, when you put a new bulb in, a bulb that you know works, the light still doesn't work. So if you know the bulb works, then it's probably something wrong with the socket.
Okay. How often do you need to do this?
Oh, lamps are pretty reliable, so I don't know that it happens all that often. And these days, a lot of less expensive lamps, people are inclined to throw them away anyway. And what they sometimes don't understand is that they think they can buy a new lamp for less money than replacing the socket. That's not really true. It's probably easier to buy a new lamp, but it would be cheaper to replace the socket.
And you said this wasn't really hard to do. How hard is it relative to other things that you do? Is it one of the easiest things you do?
Yeah, there's really only a couple of things that you really have to kind of get right. There's not a whole lot to worry about. It's a pretty simple process.
What happens if they don't get changed?
If the socket doesn't get changed,
Right.
well, then you've got a lamp that doesn't work.
Is there a fire danger or anything like that?
Not usually at the. I suppose it's possible, but not usually at the socket. The fire damage is gonna the greater fire risk is gonna be if the plug on the other end of the wire is bad. The plug that goes into the wall.
Okay.
That's the more likely fire risk if there's a problem on that end.
All right. I was wondering if you might be able to show me how you change a light socket then. Do you have one?
I just happen to have one sitting right here.
Imagine that.
So you're talking about this kind of lamp. Fairly simple, straightforward lamp. Okay. And a lamp socket.
Okay.
So this is the kind of thing that we work with. And really all you need to do it is a screwdriver. Sometimes a pair of screwdrivers, it depends on what kind of screws the particular socket uses.
Okay. So I need screwdrivers, I need a lamp, and I need a replacement socket. Okay. You want to take me through the process?
Sure. You just want me to just do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably gonna, stop you as you go along a little bit just to make sure I can get this as you're doing it.
Okay.
And when I'm done, I'll let you see what I've written up, and then we can make any changes.
Okay. Fair enough.
So you've done 2 things already. One, you kind of looked at the lamp socket, and the other thing you did was take the top of it off, right?
Yep. And the thing I was looking for is, if you look real closely here, you can see the word press.
Oh, okay.
So I was looking for that spot.
And so you've taken the top off?
The socket cover.
Okay. And what are you doing now?
I'm going to detach these two wires. There's a wire attached to a screw on either side of the socket.
How did you know to use that screwdriver and not the other one?
The screw is a slotted screw as opposed to a Phillips head screw.
So you remove the screws, or do you just open the screws?
Just open the screws and just pull the socket off.
Once you open the screws, though, do you just pull the socket off and the wires just stay there?
Yeah, the wires are connected to, I mean, the wires attached to the socket are connected to the wire.
Okay. So you've opened up the you've opened up the replacement?
Mm-hmm.
And here it looks like you had to make a choice again about which of those screwdrivers to use.
Actually, on this socket, I could have used either, because this has a screw. This new socket has a screw on it that allows either a flathead screwdriver or a Phillips screwdriver.
That's true. Do you always use that kind of a replacement socket, or do you use a variety of replacement sockets?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but if you're going to, let's say you're replacing the socket with one that only has a flathead screw, wouldn't you need a flathead screwdriver?
Oh, if the new socket only has a flathead screw, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Most of them are like this, though, that allow for either.
So the new replacement ones really don't require you to make a decision.
Generally speaking, that's true for the new sockets. Yeah.
Okay, so you're pulling the wires out. What are you doing now?
I'm going to twist them a little bit so that they're a little easier to work with. And I'd like to have a little more wire.
Wow. Okay, so you're So you lengthen that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just pulled it out from the bottom a little bit so that there's a little more wire sticking out the top of the lamp.
So now you're unscrewing the screws on the socket.
Mm-hmm. So that I can reattach the wire.
And then you wrap the wire around them.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on before you do the next one so I can make sure I've got it. So you unscrew the socket screws, you wrap the wire around the screw post? What do you call that?
Screw post is fine.
Then you tighten the screw?
And tighten the screw. And then I do the same thing with the other one. I can put this back on.
So that's the replacement socket cover?
Yeah, although I can put the old cover on. The cover isn't what matters, it's the socket that matters, but I'll put the new one on. I paid for a new one, might as well use the new one. And jam this all back down. I'm done.
All right, so can we do this again, switch it, say back to the other one, just
Sure.
so I can start testing what I've written?
Okay.
And let's see, earlier you told me that basically there are 4 parts of this. I need to remove the old socket and then connect the new socket, right? And you said it was pull it out, disconnect, reconnect, replace it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna try to map those against the list I've got, because I've got a list with a lot of things in it.
Okay.
Lists are easier if I can get them down to smaller sizes.
Okay.
All right, so first, let's do this again. You're gonna look at it, and you're trying to find is there one spot or 2 spots that say press?
Just one.
Okay,
So on this one, it's right there.
okay.
This one isn't as easy as the other one.
Okay, and then you actually, instead of taking it off, what you really do is pull the socket away from the light. You pull the socket away from the base of the socket.
Well, I guess it sort of happened at the same time. In pulling the socket cover off, because there's some slack in the wire, the socket itself sort of
Mhm.
pops up.
Okay,
And then so that was pulling the cover off, so the next step was to disconnect the wires.
and so that's where you may have to make a decision about what screwdriver to use.
And once I've disconnected the wires, I can pull the old socket free and set it aside. And then it's time to connect the new socket.
So now you're twisting the wires. You could have pulled out the wires, but only if necessary.
Right.
You wouldn't pull out the wires before you did anything else, would you? You only pull out the wires when you've actually got the socket off and you're looking at reconnecting the other one, and you'd only do that if you needed to.
Yeah, that's the only time it becomes important, is to just give myself a little, it's just a little easier to work with a wire here that's a little bit longer.
Okay.
And then it's just a matter of reconnecting these wires.
So you pulled out the wires if they were necessary, you twisted them, you unscrewed, the replacement, wrap the wires around the post. Now you're tightening the screws.
Down.
And you're gonna repeat this from the other
On the
side.
other side, make sure that the screw is actually out far enough so that I can wrap the wire.
Is there any way you can unscrew them so much that the screw falls out? Or do they stop on their own?
They might screw all the way out. You'd have to unscrew it quite a bit, but it's possible you could unscrew it.
So when you unscrew them, you just unscrew them a few twists, or just enough for the wire to go in?
A little extra than that. I might I might go a turn or two beyond what's minimally required to get the wire in, because that, again, that makes it a little easier to work with. A little easier to get the wire wrapped around the terminal.
Now, you just called it a terminal. Earlier, we were calling it a post. Is there a better word? Is one of those better than the other?
I don't think so.
If we just called it a post, would it be okay?
Be okay with me?
Short words are better than long ones. This is good. What I'd like to do next is to get a camera and go through this with you step by step.
Okay.
That's going to take another few minutes as you do this, and then what I'll do is disappear, and if you don't mind, I'll come back tomorrow, and what I'll have is a list of what I think you did.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you to do the same thing again so I can check my list, and then I'm going to ask you to check the list.
It's kind of a detailed process, isn't it?
When people get really good at something, it's always a little more detailed than they think. Because one of the things that happens when you get good at something is you're able to do it without thinking about it a lot.
Okay.
And to help other people do it like you, we've got to get all the details that you're able to do without thinking about them a lot.
Okay.
And then what we're going to do is once this list is working for you and me, we're going to give it to somebody who's never changed a light bulb before. We're going to test it. I'm going to test it.
Make sure they unplug it first.
That's a good idea, isn't it?
Well, it's probably not a good idea to have folks that have never done this before messing around with lamps that are plugged in.
All right. And so the first step is unplug the light.
Well, this one happened to be unplugged, but to make sure that it's unplugged.
Now let's get back to the fact that we're going to give this list to people who've never changed a light before. Aside from unplugging the light, is there anything else that they need to do?
Nothing I can think of. I mean, they've got to get the lamp to kind of this condition, which means taking off the lampshade and unscrewing the light bulb. Although I suppose they could do this with a light bulb in it.
Would you want them to?
Mm.
Would you do it?
No, it's easier to do it without a light bulb.
All right, so it sounds like there's some things that you do before you pull off the socket cover. You gotta unplug the light, you gotta take off the lampshade, you gotta okay.
Yeah, and the other thing is to make sure that I've got the same kind of light socket, the same kind of socket as a replacement.
How do you do that?
Well, you just look at the light socket. So this is a push button light socket. So what I want to do is replace this with another push button light socket.
Now, earlier, the other replacement light socket, is that another push button?
No, this is a turn.
So you could change them, but is it that the turn one only goes on off, and the push button is only on off?
Right.
What if you needed to change the socket so it was a three-way light?
Well, I'm not sure you can make that kind of change. There's some different wiring involved. So the thing to do is, if you've got an off-on lamp, to make sure that you have a straight off-on socket.
And so this is a list that's going to help people change from one off-on socket to another off-on socket.
Sure. And if people are unsure, what they can do is they can remove the socket
Mm-hmm.
before buying the replacement part. Take the socket into their local hardware store and essentially say to the folks in the hardware store, I want to replace this. And the folks in the hardware store will give them another one of those, a new one of those, that exactly matches the socket they took off. It's a good thing about hardware stores.
This is great. Have we missed anything else for someone who's never done this before?
Not that I can think of.
If somebody had done this a lot, is there anything you'd want to remind them of?
Someone who's done this a lot, if there's anything to remind them of.
Sometimes we get good at things and we make assumptions. Sometimes we get good at things and we might get a little sloppy. It doesn't happen with everything. I don't know if it happens with changing a lamp socket or not.
Well, the only other thing that I can remember is that someone who's never done this before might have a question about which wire to connect to which post. And the answer is it doesn't matter.
So that's good. If it doesn't matter, then we don't need to address that. But maybe we want to tell them it doesn't matter which one you attach.
It's a question that might come up.
So it doesn't matter which wire you first connect to the post.
Well, it doesn't. Not only does it not matter which order you connect them, it doesn't matter which wire you connect to which post.
Cool. Then I think I've got enough now to begin writing this up and to come back shortly with the camera.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, I'll take some pictures and test what I've got and then integrate them and come back again. And I wanted to thank you for your patience with this process.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Sure.
See you soon.
Okay.